Welcome to Teaching in America. Welcome to our first live session in which we'll explain to you all the steps that you need to know in order to become a teacher in the U.S. My name is Kyle. I have Chris right here next to me. And in this first live session, we will explain to you everything you need to know to kickstart your journey to become a teacher. There are many things that we're going to cover in this slide. But first of all, we want to introduce ourselves a little bit. We are immigrant educators ourselves. Well, we have been teaching in the U.S. for a long time now, and there are many things that we've experienced in the United States, and we've experienced in regards to the process of becoming a teacher in the U.S. that honestly, if we've had help before going through all these steps, we would have saved a lot of time, we would have saved a lot of money as well, and there's honestly, not enough information out there in the internet teaching other teachers all over the world how to become a teacher in the US. And the first thing you need to know is there is a clear pathway. There's a specific visa or specific visas to become a teacher in the US that people just don't know about because there's just not enough information out there. So this is what we need you to know right away. It is possible. If you are a teacher in your home country, there is a specific path to become a teacher in the US, and you can do it. You just need to know what to do and what this path is.
And that's why we are here live on YouTube.
Exactly.
Right? We are very happy to be here to help you, to guide you through this process, right?
100%. We have navigated the difficulties of this process. We have gone through all of these rough waters. We have gone, we here actually have representatives of two different kinds of visas. So I myself am on a J1 visa and Chris is...
I am with H1B visa, which is a work visa.
Exactly. So here, right now, you're seeing two examples that it is possible with two different kinds of visas. And that's what we want to show you. And honestly, our goal is to make this process easier for you. We don't want you to make the same mistakes that we did. We want you to avoid the mistakes we've done. We want you to save hours of research because, Chris, how much time did you spend trying to figure out how to become a teacher in the US?
More than a year, I guess.
Yeah.
Researching, trying to figure it out. It was not easy. I can compare this like when I am in a roller coaster. It's crazy because you feel like safe. I found that. Then you realize that it's not like that. And then you go like to the first step again. It is crazy, but you can save time, right?
I really like that roller coaster analogy because there's lots of emotions involved. Excitement, like fear, uncertainty. Where am I going to get there at the end? Right? And you never know really what the end of the roller coaster is until you've reached the end of the roller coaster, right? So, and that's what it is when it comes to become a teacher. And honestly, sometimes us as a teachers think that there's not opportunities for us out there in other countries, right? We think that my qualifications from my home country don't enable me to teach abroad, but that's not true at all. Actually, if you want to come to the US, with your qualifications from your home country without needing to do a university degree in the US or without having a master's degree in the US, only with your home country qualifications, you can come in the US. But again, if you want to try to figure it out by yourself, that might take you hours of research. And that's what we want you to do. We want you to avoid spending lots of hours in research and also money and resources.
Yeah. I would never imagine that they could hire me as a Brazilian to teach English here. I didn't know about that. And when I heard about it, when I learned about it, I was really excited. And here I am, right?
That's it. So why teach in America? There's many reasons why you should become a teacher in America, and these are the many reasons that led me to make the decision of becoming a teacher in America. There's many different possibilities that that your life will have after you've made this decision. Teaching in America can offer various experiences that may contribute not only to your cultural background, but also to your personal and professional development. It's about culture exchange. It's about experiencing a different culture, living different life experiences, getting to know new people, getting to teach in a new environment with different methodologies, with different approaches to learning that you might have not have experience already. So you can learn about a new culture, you can learn about new people, new ways of living that you've never had before. And also for your profession, you will acquire new skills that you may not have acquired yet. When you come to teach in a new country, specifically in the United States, there's a lot that you learn, not only culturally, but also professionally and personally. And on the other side, there's also life opportunities that you gain from becoming a teacher in the U.S. So in the U.S., generally, you will have a better quality of life than other countries. This is a fact. Even though the teacher salaries compared to other professions in the U.S. are not among the highest salaries, there's a lot more than you can do with your salary than you could do in your home country. So even perhaps if you have a lower wage, specifically compared to other professions in America, you will have, in my personal view, a better quality of life compared to many other countries in the world. There's different living standards that the US can offer you that many other countries don't. There's also and this is honestly from my personal experience, an educational diversity that you will learn in America that you might not have in another country. So for example, I have students from all over the world. I have Latin students, I have Arabic speaking students, I have Chinese students. I have learned to deal with student populations that I never had experience with before. So this educational diversity has made me personally a better teacher, a better professional nowadays. This has given me unique teaching experiences and unique approaches to teaching that I have never had before. So this is something else that you could gain when you become a teacher in America. And also there's the language aspect. If you are watching this live right now, you know English already. So you can speak English. Therefore, English is not such a challenge for you. However, you might not feel 100% comfortable with your English skills. Therefore, coming to teach in the US can help you strengthen your English skills. I know many international teachers that don't have a perfect level of English. In fact, they might have a level of English that would be considered low intermediate or intermediate in their home countries, but they come to teach in the US exactly to make their English skills a little bit more developed. So by teaching in the US, they then can become better English speakers. And perhaps that's your case. Perhaps you don't feel 100% confident. What I would like to say right away is you can come to teach in the US without a perfect English. You don't need a perfect level of English. You don't need an English proficiency test such as TOEFL, such as IELTS, such as CAE, CPE. None of these tests are needed. You will have to pass interviews. So therefore, yes, you need a level of English that is good enough to have a conversation, that is good enough to pass a job interview. However, you don't need a perfect English at all. They will hire you based on your qualifications, based on your communication skills, based on whether or not you are a good teacher or a good professional. So long story short, teaching in America can expand your professional horizons. It can open doors to global opportunities, and it can provide a pathway to a better quality of life. Now, what are we gonna cover in the following live sessions that we're gonna have, in the 3 live sessions that we have prepared for you? We are gonna cover the U.S. system, the U.S. education system, and the visa requirements. So today, I'm going to cover exactly what are the kinds of visas to teach in the U.S. and how you can apply to them. In our second live session, we are going to explain what qualifications do you need and what the certification process is like. In our third live session, we are going to talk about understanding teacher salaries, and we're also going to explain our course and how we specifically can help you save hours of research and use our expert knowledge, our on history, how we became a teacher in the US. We have laid out everything you need to know exactly. What are the necessary steps? What websites do you go to? What are the sponsors? How do you apply for jobs? We're going to explain to you everything in detail in the course that you have access to. And for the members of this live, if you have signed up for this live and you're watching this live series right now, there are specific bonuses for you that we're going to explain to you at a later moment. In today's live session, we are going to cover what are the visa requirements to teach in America. So if you are a teacher in any country of the world, what kinds of visa do you need to teach in the US? But before that, we're going to explain what are the different kinds of schools in the United States that could sponsor you. The US pretty much has 3 different levels of education. You have elementary school for kids from kindergarten to 5th grade. We have middle school for kids from 6th to 8th grade, so in their teenage years between 11 and 14 years old. And we have high school from 9th to 12th grade, between 14 and 18 years old. The requirements of age and levels and grades will be different among different states. However, in general, this is the structure of what we call K-12 education in America. There are essentially 3 types of schools in the US. There are public schools, which are the vast majority of schools in the United States. There are also private schools, which are often more religious schools or also international schools that have specific audiences. And there are also charter schools, which is sort of a mix of public and private. They are publicly funded but privately operated. So there are specific curriculum that they follow, and there's just different rules of how they operate. I'm not going to explain that in detail. I just want you to understand what are the different schools in America, and what you need to know is all of these types of schools sponsor teachers. Public schools, private schools, and charter schools. All of these kinds of schools, they hire teachers internationally, but it is important for you to understand that there are different types of schools in America. Usually though, the vast majority of opportunities for teachers will be in public schools, and also it will be where teachers will usually have the higher salaries. This is different from other countries, such as my home country, Brazil, in which private schools usually pay more for teachers than public schools. Usually the case in the US is inverted. Public schools will pay higher salaries than private schools. When it comes to curriculum, there are common core standards that usually most schools in the US use. However, there are also state-specific standards that will vary between states and between kinds of schools, between private, public, or charter schools. They will have certain flexibility for their curriculum, and there's also standardized testing in general. All schools in the United States are required to test the students with the same kind of test. Some examples of these are the MAP test, access test, or for example, ACT, the test that students in the high school take at the end of high school that will give them the scores to be selected for different universities in America. Now that you know how the structure of education works in the US and what are the different kinds of schools, you were probably asking, okay, how do I teach in these schools? What visas are there for teachers in America? The most common type of visa for teachers in the US is the J1 visa. This is the type of visa that most schools use when hiring teachers from other countries. The J1 visa is technically, though, not a work visa, is an exchange visa. It's a cultural exchange visa with the purpose of cultural and educational exchange. It allows teachers to teach in America for an initial period of 3 years with the possibility of extending another 2 years. So in total, you can teach in America for 5 years with the J1 visa. The pros of the J1 visa is that it is easier to obtain than an H1B, exactly because it is not a work visa, so the employer, the school district, or the school doesn't have to go through certain specific steps or specific legal requirements that the H1B visa does. So it's more flexible, it's easier to hire teachers with the J1 visa. Therefore, that's why there are more opportunities for J1 visa applicants. The J1 visa is also a good option because it allows you to have a cultural experience. So perhaps you are considering coming to America. However, you don't know if that's going to be a lifetime decision. You don't know if you're going to live in the US forever. You just don't know what your life will be like, if you enjoy the weather, the culture, your social environment. So the J1 visa offers you the possibility of trying things out. You know, maybe I want to live in the US, maybe I don't. Just let me try it. So that's why the J1 visa exists. It allows schools also to have an easier process of hiring teachers from abroad, and it allows candidates like you to try things out on a temporary basis. However, there are some cons, there are some negative sides of the J1 visa as well. One of them is exactly that it is time limited. The difference between the J1 visa and the H1B visa is that the H1B visa is a dual intent visa. What that means is that you can apply for a green card once you are on an H1B visa. However, with the J1 visa, this is not exactly an easy process, because it has many limitations that the H1B visa does not. And also, in many cases, the J1 visa requires you to go back to your home country for a period of 2 years after you've ended your program. You can apply for a waiver for that. However, the program in general expects teachers to go back to their home countries once they finished teaching in America. The H1B visa, as I have already briefly explained, is a work visa in itself. So it is a visa not only for teachers, but for professionals in general in the US. So it's called a specialty occupation visa. It allows companies to go through an actual labor certification process that hires qualified workers for specific positions in the US where they cannot find qualified American workers for that same position. There are many schools that hire through the H1B visa. Chris is one of them. However, it is not as easy and common as the J1 visa, and you will understand more about the reasons for that in our upcoming live sessions, as well as in detail in our course, where we will explain to you everything in detail, all the different sponsors, the links for the different sponsors, the step-by-step application process in detail, when we're going to walk together with you and carry your hand and show you this is how you apply. But just in general terms, the H1B visa is a possibility. Usually there are way less costs for you as a teacher because the school and the school district will cover for the most part of the process, if not all the process. However, as I explained, there are fewer opportunities, but there are specific ways that you can apply for an H1B visa as well. Now, what are J1 Visa sponsors? J1 Visa sponsors are educational and cultural exchange organizations that are authorized by the U.S. government to be the bridge between you, teacher, and the school that is interested in hiring you. So every time that you apply through a J1 visa, you must find an organization that can connect you with the school. You can apply for a job offer directly with the school. However, you will need the sponsor organization to make this legal connection between the candidate, teacher, and the school. Sometimes there are schools that are designated organizations themselves, schools that can do the J1 process all by themselves, but that's usually not the case. You need a designated sponsor. Some state departments of education are also designated sponsors, and sometimes larger school districts have specific exchange programs, but in general, there are organizations that you must go through. When it comes to H-1B visa sponsors, we are then only talking about the employer, the school or the school district. They are the ones that will need to do the whole process directly with you, with no third party, and they usually will need a lawyer to do that because, as I explained, there are legal processes that they must go through. We will explain to you everything in detail in our course, but just in general terms, this is the difference between the J1 visa and the H-1B visa. When it comes to J1 visas, there are two kinds of sponsors. There are free J1 sponsors. They do the process entirely free for teachers. You will still have certain costs, such as translations, such as your credential evaluation, such as your flights, your rent, but the process itself to get the J1 visa, aside from your visa interview, which you'll also probably have to pay by yourself, the whole process of issuing you the document that will allow you to get a J1 visa will be free. And if you want to know what are the free J1 sponsors, our course will include a full list of possible J1 sponsors as well as paid one, and we'll also explain in detail how this paid and how this free J1 sponsors work and what are the advantages and disadvantages of each so you can make the best decision that matches with your reality. One of the cons of free J1 sponsors is that they're usually restricted to specific states, or they only work with specific schools, districts, and many times they even have rules that don't allow you to stay in the US after your J1 visa ends, and they might even deny if you want to stay in the US after the end of your J1, they might even tell you right away and deny, no, we cannot do this, you cannot do this, because of the rules that you have accepted when you decided to come through our organizations. These are the terms and conditions that you have accepted. So they are more restrict, but they are free. So again, you have to put everything in balance to make the best decision for you. On the other hand, there are paid J1 sponsors. I myself, Kyle, came through a paid J1 sponsor. So I paid this organization to do this process for me. And the advantage that I personally found with that is that it gave me more geographical flexibility. So that means I was not restricted to a certain state or a certain school district. There were fewer rules that I had to follow. But on the other hand, there was a certain amount of money that I had to pay. So again, this is a decision that you will have to make yourself. When it comes to paid J1 sponsors, there are two kinds of programs that they offer. A self-placement program in which you have to find the job offer yourself. You have to talk to the school yourself. You must find the job. And this option is usually way cheaper than the other option, which is a full placement option where they do the whole process for you and they find you the school. As hard as it might seem for you, it is not hard at all to find a job offer. So I personally recommend, if you follow the instructions that we're going to give you in our course, and if you're choosing a paid J1 sponsor, to use the self-placement option, because if you know the right way, It is not hard at all to get a job offer. In fact, there are thousands of teaching positions available today in the US. And when you get a job offer from a school, you can then go back to your J1 sponsor and say, I have a job offer, give me the J1 visa. In general terms, that's how it works. In our course, we are going to explain everything in detail, how the application process works, how to find teaching position jobs, how to apply for teaching jobs, what are the states that pay the best salaries. Basically, we're going to tell you everything you need to know to walk through this process. And when it comes to the H-1B sponsors, like I explained, you're talking about the employer directly. You are then talking directly with the school interested in hiring you, saying, hey, I want to work in your school. Do you want me to work in your school? You need teachers, and I'm a teacher. I'm a qualified worker. Will you sponsor my visa? And there are many schools that sponsor teachers directly with an H-1B visa. Even though there are fewer opportunities than J-1 visas, there are schools that sponsor with the J-1 visa. And there are specific ways that you can find job offers from schools that sponsor J-1 visas. There are databases, there are websites that show you which companies, in general, not just schools, but which companies have sponsored teachers in the past. So when you are applying for jobs, you are not applying for every possible job out there. You are targeting specifically school districts that have already sponsored H-1B visas, so then your chance of getting an H-1B visa is higher than if you're just applying for any teaching job that you find out there, but then you find out later down the road that the school has no idea about how the H-1B process works, and they will tell you right away, sorry, we love you, we want to work with you, but we just don't sponsor teachers. If you sign up for a course, and we're going to explain you more about it in the future live sessions, you will find specific ways to apply for jobs that have already sponsored, to apply for companies that have already sponsored H-1B visas. Therefore, your chances of getting an H-1B visa are way higher. Thank you for watching our first live session. We hope that there's a lot of knowledge that you've gained from our first session today. We hope that your path to become a teacher in the US is a little shorter than it seemed before watching this video. See you tomorrow in our second live. Don't miss it, because we're going to tell you what are the qualifications you will need, what is the certification process like, and therefore you will be one step closer to become a teacher in the US. Thank you for watching. See you in our second live session.